All right, so about 2 years ago, Arcade sent me out the Salient Vision stretch belt, and I actually never really talked about it, whether on my website or on this channel, but I'm doing a review now after 2 years of using this belt, because I want to share everything that I've learned about this company and these belts and why this is one of my favorite belts I have ever used, and I've been using it for about 2 years now. So in this video, I'm going to tell you everything I do like, I don't like, and exactly who this belt right here is for. So let's go ahead and start off by talking about what this belt is. So it is one of those no-hole belts. There are no holes on this belt. You basically just adjust it by pushing the belt in this side or on the other side and then just pulling it tight. It's a pretty standard way of adjusting a belt nowadays. Instead of using holes where you're just kind of pulling a leather strap through and you're just trying to cinch it down as much as possible, you essentially set the length of this belt one time and that's it. And then once you have it around your waist, you just go in and it clips just like that. It's a very easy process. To take it off, you just push those two buttons and it unclasps and you go from there. It's a very simple and easy belt to use, and that's about it. But that doesn't mean there isn't a ton to think about when it comes to things that I do like about the belt. So let's talk about that. Now, I should mention that Arcade did gift this to me. I did not purchase this, but they did send it to me a little under 2 years ago. So at this point, these are all of my own opinions. And so let's get right into those. First thing that I do like about this belt is how stinking comfortable it is. Like, no joke, people. This is one of the most comfortable belts I've ever used. And the reason behind that really comes down to how pliable and stretchy this belt is. So as you can see, there's quite a bit of stretch to it, and that on its own would be great. However, it also is extremely kind of squishy, or at least pliable, so you can kind of see it bends over on itself. And what makes that really nice is for things when you're like sitting down, moving around, bending over, all of those kind of things, the belt not only has give lengthwise, but it also has give height-wise. So you really don't feel this belt whatsoever when you're wearing it. And considering the belt buckle itself is plastic, you don't really have much weight either. So you don't even really notice you're wearing it, but it's doing a fantastic job at keeping your pants up. And I really appreciate that about this belt right here. However, the material is also one of the downsides, so stay tuned till later in the video and I'll talk about that. But just know, most comfortable belt I've ever owned, bar none. The next thing that I really like about this belt is how easy it is to buckle. It's just like a car belt. You can see it actually looks very similar to something like you would see in a car. It just clips right in. It unhooks. It's a very simple process. There's no learning curve. There are belts out there that do have learning curves for some reason, but this one does not have that. It's extremely easy. The adjustment process of adjusting the belt is really, really easy and no complaints there. Number 3 comes down to durability. This belt is 2 years old. Almost, and you can't even tell. Outside of some of my dog's fur that is kind of embedded in here, you would never know that this is even a used belt. You can see there's really no dings, there's no scratches, any of that kind of stuff. It is held up extremely well to everything that I throw at it, and I hadn't even really noticed until I started putting this article and video together at how well this thing held up over the past 2 years. So I'm really impressed with that. The next thing is a defining characteristic of this belt, and it comes down to, we already talked about it, the no-hole design. I do not like holes. I do not like leather belts. I do not like all of those things because they get damaged. Those holes always get damaged, and I change weight pretty heavily. I can range 30 pounds in a year, which means I am adjusting this belt on the fly. And when you have hole belts, basically those holes get damaged because they're, holding things together. And so if you lose weight, the belt has to kind of, expand, which makes those holes visible to everybody else that sees your belt. And with these kind of belts, they don't have that because they don't have holes. So they can't get damaged. And I really like that about this. But that is something that a lot of other belts have as well. And then the final thing I like about this belt is what it looks like. Now, this is a bit of a subdued belt. They sent this out to me. It's a simple kind of black belt. There are some trees right there you can kind of see. And then on the belt itself, there is a little bit of a pattern. But outside of that, you wouldn't ever notice it unless you are personally the one that owns it. And I am impressed by that. I do like the style. I like the kind of shape of the belt buckle. But if this more subdued look isn't for you, Arcade has a ton of different different patterns on their website as well, of which, by the way, I'm going to leave a paid link down in the description and the top comment if you wanted to check out all the different styles and buy one for yourself. All right, so those are all the things that I do like about this belt. Now, there are two things that I don't like about this belt, and we're going to talk about that now. The first thing is it has too much stretch. So I talked about earlier how having the stretch is one of my favorite things. However, in certain time periods, there are reasons you wouldn't want so much stretch. And for me, that one thing is when I bend over. So these have so much stretch to them that they don't quite hold my pants up quite well enough when I bend over. And so it shows off a little bit too much of my backside, which is a bit of a bummer. Whereas belts like the Groove Life Ultra that I've been testing out, and I have a video out about it as well, I'll put the card up there for you guys to check out, as the brand had gifted that to me somewhat recently to try out. And it actually did a little bit better job of kind of keeping my pants up in those kind of situations, but it does sacrifice in the comfort side of things, as this is considerably more comfortable. So if you're not too worried about bending over all the time, this is an amazing belt, but there is that one circumstance I have seen where that is a consistent issue. And then the last thing that really has annoyed me over the past 2 years comes down to this component right here. As you can see, basically right here, there's a little thing right here that goes up and around, and what that does is it, kind of clips into the belt, right? But when you're pulling these through your pants to take this belt off, so you kind of, pull it through all of the different loops, most belts that's not an issue. However, this one, this thing right here kind of acts as a little hook. As it goes through all of the different belt loops, it catches it and the belt loop goes up into that area. And so what happens is it acts as a hook and gets hooked up in your pants. And then you're like, it's behind you and you're like trying to struggle to get the belt out of there. And it's just a really kind of a big pain. I know it sounds petty, but it is an issue that has really annoyed me about this belt. And I don't really know a good way around that, except for maybe by making this belt a little bit thinner so that it can get through those belt loops without getting caught up in this belt end. And that is everything that I do like and I don't like about the Arcade Vision stretch belts. I really like this belt, and who exactly is it for? It's for those people that are looking for a comfortable way to keep up their pants that also looks pretty good as well. Now, if you're somebody that bends over a lot, like maybe a plumber, probably don't get this belt. Get something a little bit tighter with a little bit more structure to it so that your pants don't go down a little bit. But if you're somebody that doesn't bend over all that often, this is a fantastic belt. Like seriously, most comfortable belt I've ever had. So if you're somebody that's looking for a comfortable belt, just get this one. Another person that I'm thinking of that probably shouldn't get this belt is somebody that works in a professional environment with a kind of a suit and a tie. Now, these kind of stretchy belts, I would think in an office setting are probably on par with maybe a clip-on tie, which is kind of frowned upon in office settings. So if you're somebody that is in a more professional environment, you may not want to get these. However, anybody else, don't worry about it. You're gonna end up being the trendsetter here. And so those are my thoughts on the Arcade stretch belts. I like this belt, and in fact, it's actually my favorite belt. I did a recent buyer's guide, and this has topped out as being my #1. I can't promise it's always going to be, but I really, really do like this belt, and it is 100% worth the price. So again, make sure to check out the link down in the description or the top comment if you want to get one for yourself. And then I'll also leave the article to my best no-hole belts as well, so you can see a lot of the other competitors and how they stack up to this and the pros and cons of each. And also don't forget to subscribe if you found this video helpful.